This seminar is for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Consult with your medical provider for medical advice or treatment. Although the presenters try to keep the information in this seminar as accurate and timely as possible, the speakers and Mather Hospital assume no duty to ensure the seminar is error-free. The speakers and Mather Hospital are not responsible or liable for any claim, loss, or damage resulting from you viewing this seminar.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our HealthyU Webinar Series. Today's topic is fiber and your gut, the dynamic duo for optimal health. At any time during the presentation, please feel free to enter any questions you may have using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We will answer as many questions as we can within the time of the Zoom PowerPoint, and your question will always remain anonymous. Today's presenter is Erin Caraher. She's a registered dietitian with a passion for health and wellness. She has a BS in nutrition and dietetics from CUNY Queens College and completed her dietetic internship at Long Island University Post. She is pursuing her master's at Stony Brook University, and Erin is devoted to providing individualized counseling that can help people in their health journey. Erin, I'll pass it off to you.
All right, welcome to the Healthy You. Today we're going to be talking about fiber and your gut. So I am going to start my PowerPoint and I will share my screen. Okay. Okay, so today we're going to talk about fiber and gut bacteria. So fiber is a carbohydrate. So it's a complex carbohydrate. Complex carbohydrates are very nutrient dense. We don't like to talk about foods in terms of like good and bad, like there's a moral value. We like to talk about the quality of nutrition in a given food. So complex carbs are very nutrient dense. I know that carbohydrates have a bad reputation of a lot of people think you need to go like low carb or no carb, but we can't group carbohydrates into one bucket. There's many different types of carbohydrates, right? So complex carbohydrates are very nutrient dense. In addition to fiber, they contain essential vitamins and minerals. So from a nutritional perspective, fiber is a carbohydrate. If you were to take multiple glucose molecules and link them together, you'd get a fiber. Fiber is found mainly in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, which are all great sources of essential vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. There are two categories of fiber. So, well, there are many different types of fiber. In general, fibers can be divided into the two types based on their physical properties. So there's soluble fiber and insoluble fiber, which we are going to dive a little bit deeper into and to understand the difference and how we can start to increase these types of fibers in our diet. Soluble fiber dissolve in water. They form gels and are easily digested by bacteria in the lower intestine. Soluble fiber provides a feeling of fullness. It slows down the rate food leaves the stomach. So it just takes way longer for your body to digest. So it'll help you feel fuller longer. May have a role with heart disease, diabetes, and colon cancer due to its effect on, which we'll get into, that it pulls out cholesterol. It stabilizes blood sugar because when you have fiber, because it's an indigestible carbohydrate, it won't provide that spike. Like if you had something with really concentrated sugar, it won't spike and then crash you. It'll keep you more steady because it's more complex, so it takes longer to digest. So that helps with diabetes and colon cancer because it acts as a broom and sweeps through your colon to pull things out to prevent, any stagnant matter that can cause some issues. It is found in legumes and fruits, and they're very important to include in our diet. The second is insoluble fibers. So insoluble fibers absorb water and swell up, resulting in larger, softer stools that are easier to and quicker to pass. So this increases your stool bulk. It provides a feeling of fullness. It helps with intestinal function. Again, can help with colon cancer, found in grains and vegetables. So insoluble fibers do not dissolve in water and do not form gels the way soluble fibers do, and are less readily fermented. Insoluble fibers are mostly found in grains and vegetables and help with intestinal function. These types of fibers absorb water and swell up in the intestines, again, providing the feeling of fullness and allow your body to easier pass your bowels, which can help with like hemorrhoids and some other GI related issues. What are some of the benefits of fiber? So bowel regularity, reduce risk of heart disease, as we talked about, with it taking the cholesterol out, which we'll get into a little bit more. Helps with constipation, any diverticular disease also, so bowel regularity. Improved blood sugar control, again, prevents that spike and that crash. Enhanced satiety, so because when you do have a meal with an abundance of fiber, fruits and vegetables and whole grains, it just takes your body a lot longer to digest, so it stays in your system longer, which helps you feel fuller longer. Also, because carbohydrates are satisfying, so generally when we just have a meal, just say of just like protein, like a piece of chicken and vegetables, some broccoli, that is a nutritious meal, as in it has some protein, it has fiber, it has antioxidants, but you're missing that satisfaction. And so when you add in a whole grain, not only are you getting an abundance of, fiber and vitamins and minerals, but you're also adding to the satisfaction factor, giving yourself some of those more nutritious carbohydrates, so that you're not thinking of food or feeling like you missed out on something or that it wasn't a satisfying enough meal. So again, when people talk about being nervous with carbohydrates or not able to maybe control themselves around carbs, it's important to pair it with a fruit or vegetable and a protein, and to also make it a whole grain if you're choosing, a carbohydrate, to make sure that it can be satisfying, but also nutritious, and you're preventing those spikes and crashes. It's also been linked to improved mental health, and it feeds the gut microbiome, which produces short chain fatty acids, which again, we will get into. So the benefits for intestinal function, so insoluble fibers absorb water, resulting in larger, softer stool that's faster and easier to eliminate. So as I mentioned before, helps with constipation, hemorrhoids, diverticular disease. So when anyone has, which is a very common thing, diverticulitis, so that's when you have little pouches in your intestines or your large intestine that get inflamed. And when they are inflamed, you might have to go to the hospital. You're going to be put on a clear liquid diet. But when the inflammation has gone down and you're not in that state of, pain and being on a clear liquid diet, actually it's important to increase the fiber in your diet to help prevent it, to help things pass easier and to prevent those little pockets from getting inflamed. So it's actually really important to increase your fiber. It also may help prevent any diverticular disease by absorbing the water, making the large, so it could also, on top of helping a disease state, it can help prevent these disease states as well. So if you know somebody that has diverticulitis or has hemorrhoids or has chronic constipation and you're nervous that could happen to you, by doing this proactively too. So it could help someone that's in that state, but also someone who's looking for more prevention. So I mentioned before that it can help with cholesterol levels. So fiber lowers risk of heart disease by binding, it lowers cholesterol by binding it to the small intestine. So once inside the small intestine, the fiber attaches to cholesterol particles, preventing them from entering your bloodstream and traveling to other parts of the body, which can, in turn start clogging arteries. So they will bind to the small intestine. Once inside the intestine, the fiber attaches, like I said, to the cholesterol particles, won't let them go into the bloodstream. Instead, the cholesterol will exit the body through feces. Soluble fibers can also bind to bile acids and increase their excretion. With fewer bile acids in the intestine, less fat is absorbed. Also, by increasing bile acid excretion, the liver must use its cholesterol to make new bile acids. So this is in one of the ways that it can help heart health. As mentioned earlier, there's a favorable effect on blood glucose, so it prevents those spikes in blood sugar. So if you have something really concentrated in sugar with no protein, fat, or fiber with it, it's going to spike you up and then crash you down, making you feel hungrier sooner and leaving your blood sugar all out of stable. Sometimes people actually get like a rebound, like hypoglycemic, where they spike and then they crash and they feel shaky. So we want to keep in the optimal blood sugar zone where we're kind of, staying in the middle. We're not going too high. Now, it's normal after a meal, you are going to increase, because if you have something with carbohydrates, even from nutritious carbohydrates, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, it's normal, but we just don't want like a really, really big spike and a big crash. We want a balanced diet. Soluble fibers decrease the rate at which your food is released from the stomach and delays glucose absorption into the blood. It can also help you achieve a healthy weight. So foods rich in complex carbohydrates tend to be low in fat and added sugars, which can help with weight management by providing fewer calories. As fiber absorbs water, they can swell up, creating a feeling of fullness and delaying the onset of hunger. So foods rich in complex carbohydrates. So as you can see from this picture, when we eat food, it causes our pancreas to produce insulin, which will usher glucose out of the bloodstream. If we overconsume refined carbohydrates, they will spike our blood sugar quickly and then will be quickly stored as fat. So by increasing our fiber intake, this can help us achieve a healthy weight. I mentioned before about something called short chain fatty acids. So fiber passes through the GI undigested. It's fermented by the colon to feed the microbes of the gut microbiome, which produces the short chain fatty acids. And about 95% of the short chain fatty acids in your body are acetate, propionate, and butyrate. Propionate is mainly involved in producing glucose in the liver and the small intestine. Acetate is important for energy production and the synthesis or breakdown of lipids. And butyrate is preferred energy source for the cells that line the colon. Short chain fatty acids are also involved in the metabolism of important nutrients like carbohydrates and fats. Okay, so we have our types of fiber that we've talked about, soluble and insoluble. And so now how do we increase our fiber sources? So what are they? Where can we get them found in food, right? Sources of soluble fiber, which again absorbs water, acts like a gel in the GI tract, slows digestion and gastric emptying, which makes you feel full. These your sources are lentils, nuts, flax seeds, beans, apples, oranges, pears, strawberries, blueberries, dried peas, carrots, cucumbers, oatmeal, and psyllium. And then your insoluble, which adds bulk to your stool, speeds up gastric transit, prevents constipation. Your sources are going to be nuts, seeds, whole grains, brown rice, and vegetables such as zucchini, celery, broccoli, cabbage, onions, tomatoes, green beans, dark leafy greens, raisins, and root veggie skins. So that's like the difference, for example, of like mashed potatoes compared to like a roasted potato is actually eating the skin of the root vegetable because it contains that good insoluble fiber. So dietary fiber that we've been talking about, as a dietitian, we're always going to talk food first. How do we get this into our everyday life so this can just become part of our diet? How can I add in, right? Kind of changing your mindset on food and instead of thinking about foods you have to not consume, right? Instead of looking at this presentation, oh, I want to eat foods that don't cause a blood sugar spike, so I can't have concentrated sweets or I can't have this. I don't want you thinking like that. I want you to be in a positive mindset. So let's focus on what we can add into our diet to prevent some of those disease states or or prevent your body from maybe not feeling its best. So food first. I always want you to remember that because there's a lot of products out there, there's a lot of supplements out there, and it's not that you can't use them, it's just you still want to, okay, well, you can't out supplement your diet. You always want to focus on natural whole foods. So dietary fiber found in fruits, veggies, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. Those are the best sources and the best bioavailable sources of fiber that your body is going to react the best with because it's coming from whole foods. Low in calories and filling, provides added benefits from other nutrients, such as vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Functional fiber is isolated fiber added during food processing or sold as a supplement. Does not have the same benefit or effect on health as dietary fiber, and usually found in overprocessed glorified junk food or fiber supplements such as Benefiber. Now, this does not mean I'm saying that Benefiber is bad or that you shouldn't be having any sort of supplement. I just want you to know you can't out supplement your diet. So the best thing to do to have the benefit of not only fiber, but all of the other things that come from eating a nutritious diet is to focus on what you can add. So for example, if you're struggling with cholesterol and you're like, I do want to increase my fiber intake, it doesn't mean, you shouldn't be taking some sort of fiber like a psyllium fiber or something that a supplement, but maybe you could also make sure that at 2 out of 3 of your meals, half your plate is vegetables. Every grain that you choose, make sure it is a whole grain and that at least any bread that you choose or starch that you have is a starchy vegetable where you eat the skin, or you're snacking on fruit and nuts, right? So all these foods that we talked about, how can we make sure that that is being included in your diet as well to help with a lifestyle change? So the best types of fiber for production of the short chain fatty acids. So inulin, you can get from inulin from artichokes, garlic, leeks, onions, wheat, rye, and asparagus. Fructooligosaccharides found in various fruits and vegetables, including bananas, onions, garlic, and asparagus. Resistant starch, you can get resistant starch from grains, barley, rice, beans, green bananas, legumes, and potatoes that have been cooked and then cooled. Pectin, good sources of pectin include apples, apricots, carrots, oranges, and others. I know I'm going to say this wrong, and I said it right before. Arabinoxolin is found in cereal grains, for example, the most common fiber in wheat bran, making up about 70% of the total fiber content. Guar gum, it can be extracted from guar beans, which are legumes. So again, focusing on whole foods, how can I increase my sources of all these natural fibers. So take a look at this variety of foods and like how can we start to include more of these foods in our diet on the regular basis. The recommended daily amount for fiber is at least 25 grams per day for women, and for men at least 30 grams a day. So in general though, about 14 grams per 1,000 calories consumed. But just also know that there is no tolerable upper limit. Like it's hard to overdo. So minimum 25 grams per day, but you know, you could have more. However, if you're just starting off increasing fiber, never increase too much too quick, because then you'll start to get some GI upset and gas and bloating and really uncomfortable. And if you increase too quickly, and then you're going to be put off from increasing fiber. But generally, if you are increasing, you know, increase slowly. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water as well, because water helps things pass through as well. But just know that like if there's not a hard stop, for example, like at 25 or 30 grams, you absolutely can have more than that. A high fiber source is considered 5 grams or more per serving, and the average American takes in about 15 grams per day. I have a video here. So today's the day. Jonathan, can you see this?
I can't, but I can always share the video. Oh, okay.
Can you see it now?
Yes, I can.
Hold on. Can you hear the?
I didn't hear anything at the moment. I don't hear anything.
You don't hear anything? Okay. You know what? I know on Microsoft Teams I have to click like it, like allow audio.
Mm-hmm. If you unshare and then go back to share, there'll be a little button that says share audio, if that makes sense.
Oh. Share sound. Okay. Sorry.
Fiber. You've heard that it's good for you and that many people don't get enough fiber in their
Can you hear it now?
Yes.
Okay.
diet. But there's more than one kind of fiber, and fiber does more than just help move feces along the digestive tract, as you're about to learn. Fiber is a non-digestible carbohydrate naturally found in plants. A carbohydrate is a sugar, but unlike table sugar, fiber is made up of many little units of sugar linked together into chains and knots that cannot be unraveled or digested by our body. If it cannot be digested, then it can't be used for energy. You can imagine how if you had one piece of string with one knot in it, the string could easily be unraveled or digested by our body and then used for another purpose. That's table sugar for you. But if that same piece of string had hundreds of knots and was tied in a very difficult way, just like fiber is, it may be impossible to untie everything. That's what fiber is when compared to a simple sugar. Furthermore, there are two divisions of fiber. There is dietary fiber, which is fiber that is found naturally in grains, fruits, vegetables, and legumes. And then there's functional fiber, which is fiber that is made in a lab or extracted and isolated from natural sources and added to a dietary supplement or food thereafter. The sum of dietary and functional fiber is known as total fiber. Basically, if you get your fiber from oatmeal, that's dietary fiber. If you get it from a dietary shake that has added fiber, then that's functional fiber. To help remember the differences between the two, just look at the names themselves. Dietary literally implies it comes from your diet, a natural diet. If it's functional, then remember it serves to add the function of fiber to food that doesn't naturally have enough fiber within it. Now, I did say in the beginning there are different kinds of fiber. It's not just about dietary versus functional fiber. There are other divisions involved and things each kind of fiber can do. There is something called soluble fiber. This is a type of fiber that reduces the absorption of cholesterol, decreases the movement of glucose into the blood after a meal, and delays stomach emptying. Soluble fiber turns into a gel when mixed with water in your gastrointestinal tract. Because soluble fiber delays stomach emptying, it makes you feel fuller and thus makes you less prone to overeating. This obviously helps to control a person's weight. Additionally, because soluble fiber delays the amount of time glucose or sugar moves into your bloodstream, it helps to prevent massive sugar spikes in your body that lead to energy crashes thereafter. Sources of soluble fiber include oatmeal, nuts, seeds, and lentils. On the flip side is something called insoluble fiber. This is a type of fiber that helps to add bulk to a stool, pass stool more quickly, and thereby prevent things such as hemorrhoids, constipation, and more. Insoluble fiber can be found in wheat bran, vegetables, and whole grains. You might be wondering why we should even care about the laxative effects of insoluble fiber has upon our body. I'll give you one good reason. Over many years, if you do not get enough fiber in your diet and constantly strain to go number 2, it can lead to a condition called diverticulitis. This is a painful condition where little pouches form in your colon. Doctors believe that a low-fiber diet contributes to this problem. But there's more to fiber than just preventing diverticulitis. Fiber has been shown to help prevent or delay the onset of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. You'd think that such amazing benefits from fiber would be reason enough for Americans to eat enough of it. But it seems that most Americans actually do not get enough fiber in their diet. The typical person only consumes about 11 to 15 grams of fiber per day. You need much more than that. An adult should consume somewhere between 21 to 38 grams of fiber each day. This lesson should have taught you not only how much fiber you need to consume on a daily basis, but why and the different kinds of fiber you can eat. Fiber is a non-digestible carbohydrate naturally found in plants. This means it can be found in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. If the fiber you eat comes from, say, fresh vegetables you get at the store, then it's considered to be dietary fiber, which is fiber that is naturally found in grains, fruits, vegetables, and legumes. If you add a powdered form of fiber into your milkshake every day, then that's functional fiber, which is fiber that is made in a lab or extracted and isolated from natural sources and added to a dietary supplement or food thereafter. The sum of dietary and functional fiber is known as total fiber. Fiber plays many roles in the body, depending on which of the two kinds it is. There is something called soluble fiber. This is a type of fiber that reduces the absorption of cholesterol, decreases the movement of glucose into the blood after a meal, and delays stomach emptying. There's also insoluble fiber. This is a type of fiber that helps to add bulk to a stool, pass stool more quickly, and thereby prevent things such as hemorrhoids, constipation, and more. Insoluble fiber can be found in wheat bran, vegetables, and whole grain.
Okay, so just like a visual and being able to see how fiber works and just a little bit more information about and a different way of viewing like what we're already talking about. So just to talk a little bit about the human microbiome. So the human microbiome is located in the small and large intestine, known as the enteric nervous system. Enteric meaning related to our intestinal tract. It contains a community of live and active bacteria providing distinct physiochemical properties. There's billions of different species, and it helps digest food, absorb nutrients, respond to allergens, and fight off disease. It is estimated that 90% of the body's serotonin is produced in the small gut. And gut dysbiosis, which is your gut, not being adequate, like, not having a nice proportion of, good bacteria compared to bad bacteria. It's associated with anxiety, depression, and major depressive disorder. The foods we eat affects the type of bacteria growing in the gut. So there's a big gut-brain connection, as we just learned, the amount of serotonin that affects and how it can affect our anxiety and depression, our different responses, such as like fight or flight, the stress response, secretion of mucus, neuromuscular control of peristalsis, which is emptying into our stomach, digestion, neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine, like immune signaling, barrier integrity signaling. So there's just a lot of different, there's more going on than just, preventing constipation or, feeling full. Like there's a lot more going on that's connecting how we take care of our gut to, how we are feeling. So I mentioned a little bit about dysbiosis, so the imbalance of the microbiota that causes some inflammation. Symbiosis is a mutual relationship between the human body, specifically the brain, and the gut microbiome, providing benefits to both. They feed each other. The body is in harmony, working together. Dysbiosis, as mentioned, the imbalance of microbiota that causes inflammation, affects a variety of functions in all systems of the body, can be caused by physiological stress, poor diet, circadian rhythm disruptions like not sleeping well, alcohol, tobacco, environmental toxins. And this could lead to mood disruption, appetite irregularity, anxiety, depression, memory loss, even leaky gut syndrome. So increased intestinal impermeability allows contents such as bacterial metabolites and molecules, as well as bacteria itself, to leak through the submucosa and into systemic circulation, which can lead to inflammation. So increased intestinal permeability can lead to a variety of inflammatory diseases. So how do we improve our microbiome? Eat an assortment of foods to promote a varied bacterial population in your intestines. So increase plant foods. Plants, has fiber, prebiotics, probiotics. Include these foods daily in your dietary pattern. So right now, think about your breakfast or one meal, and think about a food that you could potentially add into that meal. Can you add blueberries into your yogurt? Can you add some nuts and seeds? Sprinkle them into something that you're eating already, right? Like if you're having, I'm thinking of like yogurt or cottage cheese, or even like a sandwich or a salad. Like, is there stuff that you can add in to make sure you're getting more of this on a regular basis? Be mindful of fatty and sugary foods that tend to be low in fiber and promote dysbiosis. Limit or avoid alcohol and tobacco. Aim for adequate sleep, hydration, and exercise, and manage stress. So some strategies to increase your fiber. So increase fruits and veggies. Eat whole foods instead of fruit juice. Choose high fiber cereals or oatmeal. Choose whole grains instead of refined grains. Add chia or flax seeds into different meals and snacks, and eat more beans and lentils. So again, instead of focusing on things to take away and how to improve your diet by taking things away, think about how you can add this into your diet. What are you doing? What foods do you like that you can add this into your diet? I actually just got asked today by a patient in the hospital about pre and probiotics, because again, there are two words that they can be a little confusing, and so I'm happy to, talk about pre and probiotics because, again, it helps with the gut microbiome. So prebiotics are fiber that passes undigested through the upper part of the GI tract, support the growth of good bacteria, and it's actually the food that feeds the probiotics. So if you think of probiotics are actual like living bacteria that need to eat to survive, right? So prebiotics are the food for the probiotics. So sources could be asparagus, leeks, onions, garlic, tomatoes, parsnips, celery, berries and bananas, oatmeal, barley and flax seeds, lentils, kidney beans, chickpeas, and navy beans. And then you have your probiotics, the good bacteria, similar to the bacteria that naturally exist in the gut. It aids in digestion. It helps change and repopulate intestinal bacteria to balance the gut flora. So sources are going to be fermented dairy products such as yogurt, kefir, buttermilk, aged cheese, fermented vegetables, kimchi, sauerkraut, pickles, miso paste and broth, tempeh, natto, vinegar and brine, sourdough bread, kombucha, and some probiotic supplements. But again, always think food first, right? So for example, in just talking about a really beneficial meal, something like, a yogurt with then some like berries and maybe some crunch, add some nuts in there. So you're, getting some, fiber and antioxidants and prebiotics and probiotics, that they all work together, and it's a really nutritious meal for your body that's going to make you feel good and fuel your body and prevent spikes and all the good stuff. Oh. No, wait, this link is not working. You know what? That's okay. Okay, so that was my presentation. I hope it wasn't too overwhelming and that it provided good information on fiber and how important it is for your diet and how to include it in your diet. So does anyone have any questions?
Thank you so much, Erin. We have a few questions so far. Let me see. I have a condition called I'm going to butcher this, lymphocytic colitis. What kind of fiber can I eat if it would be beneficial, recommended or not in this case?
So I do want to say that very specific conditions, I would of course talk with your doctor, because I don't want to make this as kind of for generalized, people. Like I can speak to some, disease states such as some diverticular diseases, but I don't know if you have any, like I have never specifically heard of, what is it called? Oh,
Lymphocytic colitis?
colitis. Okay. Yeah, so colitis in general can be very tricky with fiber because there's different things that can cause some inflammation and your body's not working in a general sense, as in how it has some inflammation pockets and stuff. So it's a little bit different. So I would definitely speak with your GI or someone who knows your case a little bit better. I don't want to give any general advice to someone with a specific disease state.
Next question, considering a prebiotic, so when is the best time to take a probiotic?
So they work together. So like I said, first, I would always recommend food first. So as we talked about some prebiotics, I would definitely try to increase some of those sources in your diet to make that part of your diet. So that's, and it's going to be better absorbed and utilized. But if you're going to take a prebiotic, I do know that there are some pre and probiotic combos, because just remember that it's the food for the probiotic. So you kind of want it present, when you're also having you want to have your prebiotic when there's also some probiotics there so that they can work synergistically.
The next question is about sharing the presentation. Yeah, I'll share the presentation with everybody who attended. What is a good probiotic brand and what is the dosage?
So we always, when it comes to supplements, you just want to make sure that it is third party tested. That's always what we go for. So supplements are not regulated. So you want to make sure that there is a the consumer labs third party tested so that they actually know like what they're saying is in the product is actually what it states. So and we also want to make sure that there is at least like I want to say 10 billion um, in the supplement. Brand wise, I mean, like I said, I'm definitely more of like a try to get it through food first. That's always going to be like try to increase food, natural whole food sources. Um, specific brands, I would just make sure that you're looking to see if it has the NSF or consumer labs tested, and make sure it has like at least 10 billion, and then that's kind of your own discretion, or speak with your doctor.
I had my gallbladder removed in January and find myself managing GAS. How can I best manage this without a gallbladder?
Self-managing gas. So again, it really depends on your own specific case. There could be specific foods. Like the best thing I would do is like write out a food record, and when you have symptoms, there could be something specifically causing more symptoms than something else. You could develop intolerances, like maybe all of a sudden you're having issues with dairy, for example, and you start to notice a correlation. When it comes to the gallbladder, so your gallbladder is the reservoir system for the bile that helps break down fats, right? But your body does a good job at when it gets removed, it can adapt. So, your pancreas produces the bile, the gallbladder will store it. So now like your pancreas just does a better job at producing it, and it just, there's no like reservoir little system. I don't know, I picture it like it's like this little like boat with like bile in it, right? And it was like at the ready. Now your body just has learned to just excrete it and utilize it, right? But it doesn't mean that a lot of people have issues with like fried foods or, really high fat foods. So these are just things to like watch out for after not having a gallbladder. And like I said, just make write down keep a food diary, and be able to reflect on potentially what could be causing, specifically you might be having some issues with certain foods.
Question. I've noticed a difference in results with capsule form of Metamucil than when I use a teaspoon dosage. Capsules are more easy to carry when traveling. They affect me differently.
Yeah. Listen, you have to find what works for you. That's totally fine. And especially when you travel, like it's a good thing to like have something that works, because a lot of people have like issues with regularity when they travel. So that's totally fine. So I'm not sure, was there a question in there, or
I don't
just
think there was.
okay.
Okay, next one. Getting into overnight oats using a protein shake. How much chia/flaxseed is appropriate to add?
Yeah, so that's great. I love, actually, that's like I had that for breakfast. I do protein oats, and I usually add. So the thing with any sort of like nuts and seeds is like they're great, but they are, heavy in fat, and so they do have a lot of calories to them. So, I mean, if you're doing like overnight oats, which is already a good source of fiber, I mean, I would say like a tablespoon is plenty to like add to your overnight oats. I was gonna say like if you do a tablespoon of that, or if you're adding like another type of nuts, like if you're adding peanut butter, like just things to keep in mind, just because the calories can get really, you can make an overnight oats with all of a sudden you're like at 700 calories and you're like, oh no, like I didn't mean to like create a calorie bomb, even though it's all super nutritious food. So just keeping that in mind. And it also has to taste good to you, right? Like if you search a recipe and says like 2 tablespoons and it's like, or you look at the serving size, for example, like of chia seeds, because I want to say the serving size, if you look at the label, it's like, I don't know, 2 or 3 tablespoons maybe. And like, I just find that to be too much. And like, you're already having like your breakfast is your oats, right? So you're kind of just like adding something for a little bit boost of nutrition. So I would just do like 1 tablespoon or whatever like tastes good to you, is totally fine. But I love that. Also, don't think that I'm crazy because it actually really does taste good. But if anyone's looking to add in a little bit more nutrition to oats as well, you can always use frozen cauliflower rice, a little bit added with the oats, and so you actually like mix it. I know people are probably like, that's weird, but if you take some oats and then you take some cauliflower rice, you put some milk, you can like microwave it or whatever, and then you add in your toppings like some protein powder and some chia seeds, a little bit of peanut butter, and it just kind of like has the same texture as oatmeal, and it just adds that bulk, and again, more veggies, more fiber, more, you know, and not as many calories too. So that's another option.
Next question, what is better, soluble or insoluble foods?
So it's better to have a good balance of both of them, because as you could see, they're both very beneficial and they both have their part that they play in our diet. So a nice combo of insoluble and soluble foods, you know, including both of those on the regular basis, is extremely important. I really wouldn't say that there's like, you know, one is better than the other. They're both very important.
Is there truth in the European diet being better for humans versus that which we get here in the US?
I think it just depends. I think, you know, we're putting just like everyone, you know, putting everything in like one bucket, and it's like, well, the European diet, like for example, the Mediterranean diet is by far, every study comes back to the Mediterranean diet being very anti-inflammatory, great for gut, so it's naturally high in fiber, it's healthy, and it's abundant in healthy fats and proteins and omega-3s and all this stuff that all research has come back as being a really nutritious diet, right? So that's like, you know, that's the Mediterranean diet. So it really just, it depends where, like the standard American diet that people talk about, like that, you know, of course could be improved on when people think about America and they're like, oh, hot dogs and fried foods and fast food and blah, blah, blah. But obviously we know living here that that's not, you know, you also have to choose that life, right? So, I mean, it just depends. I think we're all doing the best we could do, and that's all you can do is, you know, try to eat mostly a whole food based diet, while still allowing yourself to be mindful about other things. Also keeping in mind, you know, like your quality of life and stress and hydration and exercise, and just living a healthy life that you feel your best and that, you know, is reasonable to sustain, is and you could be consistent with, is the most important thing, no matter where you live.
All right, next question. Does it matter if the chia/flax seeds are whole or ground?
I prefer ground flax seeds. They're better absorbed. I don't feel like chia seeds. I know some people do that. It's fine either way. But I do know that like flax seeds are a little bit better absorbed when they are ground with like some of the omegas and stuff, which I know chia has as well. To be honest, however you're going to eat them, it's just eat them in any way that you can. You know, if you find either, you know, you can again have like a variety of different things, have a little bit of, ground, like I use ground flax seeds in these like muffins that I make for like my kids. But I've also had like whole flax seeds where I've, sprinkled that over something. So having a nice little combo, but just making sure you are just eating them on the regular basis is important.
And the last question, I eat 3 ounces of wheat germ a day. Is this too much?
3 ounces of wheat germ. I mean, as long as it's not too much on your stomach, I don't see why that's an issue. As long as there's no clinical reasons for you not to be doing that. I don't know in what capacity, if you're just eating 3 ounces at a time, are you breaking it up throughout the day? I mean, I would have to, this is the thing about nutrition, sometimes it's very individualized as well. So, so some of these questions too, I would have to just talk a little bit more in detail with the actual person. So, yeah, I mean, it just depends. And like I said, when it comes to fiber, if you are going to eat fiber, increase fiber, just do it slowly, because, if you jump right into eating a lot at one time, you'll just get like gas and bloating. And I don't want someone to be like, oh no, I ate fiber now, like I'm uncomfortable. Sometimes it just takes your body a little time to adapt, and that's very normal.
Right, perfect. I think that was the last question. So, Erin, I wanted to thank you for your great presentation, and thank you everybody for joining. If you have any additional questions, you can email them off to matherhospital@northwell.edu. And if you could please complete the brief survey, that helps us plan our future webinars. That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you all so much, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day.
Thank you.